My name is Larry Young. It's been my privilege to be chairman of the Pro Bono Committee of the York County Bar Foundation for most of the last 20 years. And as part of that work, I've become aware of the need for the providing of legal services in York County. It may seem difficult to believe in all of the abundance of our area, but there are over 40,000 people who are under the national poverty level. And for them, access to the civil justice system is denied because of their poverty. They can't afford attorneys, and they have their own legal needs just like the rest of us. And so what we're going to do today is walk you through a history of the providing of legal services, legal aid to the poor in York County, how it has evolved, and give you an idea of what is needed to keep that service alive for those in York County who are in need. At one point in the history of providing legal services to the poor in York County, most of the work was done strictly on a volunteer basis, but it was never enough. Then the Legal Services Corporation was established by Congress, and it funded the providing of legal services through hiring lawyers and retaining lawyers in offices throughout the United States. But as politics and funding have changed and the need has increased, there's a gap that the government funding simply does not meet. The York County Bar Association and Foundation grants over $50,000 a year annually to provide services through the York office of MidPenn Legal Services. But that's not enough. We need a partnership with private citizens, with corporations, in order to provide the necessary funding for those people who are in need. What I'd now like to do is introduce you to two senior attorneys in the Bar Association and our president judge as they walk you through the history of the early years of providing legal services to the poor in York County.
What I remember most from when I first started practicing law was that my father and a lot of the lawyers his age took care of the poor and the indigent in their own way. My father particularly had a policy where he never charged a church or a man in the military service a fee for anything. I believe sometimes they paid some of the costs, but he never charged a fee. He also did free work for other charitable organizations, and it was an early type of legal aid. Also at that time, the court would appoint counsel to help people who had no money in civil and criminal cases. That was before any formal type of legal aid. But a lot of those lawyers just freely volunteered to do that. Some of them just did it on their own. And there was an unwritten sort of a code at that time that if a client was indigent and could not pay, they would not sue for the fee. They would just absorb it and figure that's part of their contribution to make the whole legal system work. My father had, and often voiced to me, had very strong feelings that a lawyer makes his living in the community and he has to give back to the community.
I'm Stephen Linebaugh. I'm the President Judge of the 19th Judicial District of Pennsylvania, which encompasses York County, and I have a few things to talk about the pro bono service of the lawyers here in York County and the history somewhat of the pro bono service. I started practicing in September of 1972. I was admitted to the bar. Lawyers talked about the need to have other legal services provided to members of the community that could not afford the legal services. Lawyers didn't brag about it. There were some very prominent lawyers who did a lot of pro bono services that everyone sort of knew that they were doing it, and I'm not quite sure how we knew. It was just a smaller sense of community at that time, and we were aware that that was a duty and an obligation of the legal profession.
I'm Jane Alexander. I practice law in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, and I know it's difficult to believe, but I've been here practicing since 1956. I had an associate with John Foster in York, and so most of my days were spent in York, but I maintained my office here in Dillsburg and saw clients in the evenings. So I experienced big city practice and local practice. When I started, there were only 2 other attorneys part-time here in Dillsburg. And so I learned that there were a lot of people at that time that needed legal help, and they didn't have the money to pay for it. We're interested here in what did we do for the people who couldn't afford legal services. Here in Dillsburg, as I said, most people wanted real estate work done or estate work. So just a few examples of how we did it. We took payment in kind. My family ate very well with the chickens and the steaks and the eggs and the vegetables that I would take from people who, and at that time chickens were raised in Dillsburg and pigs. But of course we would get paid in food, or we would set up a payment plan where they would pay maybe $1 a week on their bill. And Russ Grice and I very often got together and decided, could we help these people and not pay or not charge a big fee? A fellow wanted to have a will written. He had 2 teenage children and he wasn't well, and he was in his late 40s. So he came and he wanted a will written, but he didn't have any money. And I said, well, why don't you plow my garden? So he plowed the garden, and as a matter of fact, then he came and helped weed it a few times, and that's what paid to have his will written. He didn't realize, and I didn't either, that about approximately 6 to 8 months later, he would be killed in an accident over here at Shepherdstown. It was the idea that we knew that these people needed help, and we were so fortunate that there were lawyers who were willing to give of their time and help these people. The law has changed tremendously. Now we have a lot of family law and things, cases a lot more criminal, and we have a lot of more people too. And so we're very fortunate that the Bar Association has taken steps in the late 1960s to move into formal aid for these people.
From the last 3 interviews, you can see that the delivery of legal services has evolved over the years. At one point, the government fully funded the providing of legal services through the Legal Services Corporation. You're now going to hear from one of the attorneys who was a staff member of Legal Services in those early years.
There was you asked what the difference was between then and now. Then you just took everything that walked through the door. There was no criteria other than income level for the kinds of cases that you would take. So there was quite a range of cases. Now I think for various reasons, primarily probably funding, they have to place restrictions on the kinds of cases they can take and prioritize things a great deal. Whereas back in the 70s, that was not the case.
Legal services and the providing of legal services to the poor has evolved over time. At one point, York belonged to Tri-County Legal Services, a 3-county organization. Then it belonged to Central Pennsylvania Legal Services, an 8-county organization. Now York is part of MidPenn Legal Services, an 18-county organization that provides legal services throughout Central Pennsylvania. But the problem is they don't have the resources to provide all of the services needed. They actually have to triage cases and turn away those that aren't deemed critical. Our current office can only provide for about 40% of those people that come to their doorstep and need legal services.
Over the past couple years, what I can say is with the downturn in our federal and state monies and the IOLTA money, the interest on lawyers' trust accounts money that has decreased, the bar associations in our area have really stepped up to the plate, including New York Bar Association and Foundation, by funding the family law attorney position in cooperation with many of the local businesses in York County, by really taking a look at our program with pro bono and stepping up to the plate to help with pro bono across the region. And York is included in that. The need for our services has increased by about 25% in the last 3 years. So there are a lot of people out there that need our services.
My name is John Mitton, and I'm an attorney at MidPenn Legal Services. I've been an attorney here for over 25 years. I started practicing here right when I came out of law school back in 1984. A lot of people ask me why I do this. Well, I guess the obvious answer is that I like to help people, but I like to help people that are vulnerable and need some assistance. I think nowadays we're in a situation where when people have a legal problem, they're desperate for some kind of guidance and stability in their life. And they really don't know what their options are and how to maneuver through the court system. And so that's kind of where I come in and try and help people. What I primarily do is I represent people that are facing evictions or foreclosures on their homes, but Legal Services does a lot of other things besides that. We help people with custody, child custody issues, protection from abuse issues. Some of the greatest challenges that we have right now are keeping up with the demand of our work. We help approximately 1,000 people per year. We have the York County Bar Foundation that helps us with another 200 cases approximately per year. But I think we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg in regards to the people that we want to help and that we should be helping. And I just want to make it known that without the help of the York County Bar Foundation, the York United Way, York, the Area on Aging, and the business community, we wouldn't be around. I really want people to know that, and it's really, their assistance is incredibly vital.
It's been a rough road. For probably the past 6 years, I've been involved in domestic violence, and it went to a level where I need legal help because I couldn't afford an attorney. And I found out about Penn Legal Services, and I found out that I was qualified for their services, and they gave me a very good attorney that would help take my case in custody. We also won the case for custody. Also for domestic violence, I had to file for a PFA order. It took 4 times in order for the judge to believe that there was domestic violence. Was granted PFA order for 18 months. And also I had 2 attorneys from Penn Legal Services, and we won all of our cases. I was afraid to go forward and press charges. I was afraid to walk out my door knowing that I have to watch my back everywhere I go. Not just for men, but women who are single with children, who struggle through day-to-day life to survive with their income. I think it's great. I'm just hoping that MidPenn Legal Services will help provide people who have low income and who can't afford attorneys.
I'm Craig Trebilcock, president of the York County Bar Association. The York County Bar Association has a long tradition of helping the underrepresented and indigent in our community. Back in 1993, the bar came together with dozens of attorneys to help new arrivals to our shores who needed help in immigration courts. That project led to another initiative called the Pennsylvania Immigration Resource Center that assisted those who were detained in our community awaiting disposal of their immigration cases. Dozens of attorneys assisted that effort. That then became a new initiative in 2010 to assist abused women and children in our community. So from the leadership of the bar and its members, we've accomplished great things from new arrivals to those who live among our community over a long period of time. That leadership has led the Pennsylvania Bar Association to recognize the York County Bar 3 times with its prestigious Goffman Award. No other bar association in the entire state has even received this award twice, yet York has been recognized 3 times as a statewide leader in providing pro bono services. I'd like to invite you to join me and the York County Bar Association to continue to assist those in our community who are most in need for legal services.
I'm Carolyn Steinhauser, President of the York County Bar Foundation. As the charitable arm of the York County Bar Association, the Foundation is an important partner with the association in providing access to legal advice for the underserved. We do this by providing pro bono legal counsel to low-income citizens and citizens of domestic violence, and through our grants program, which provides critically needed funding to MidPenn Legal Services and Pennsylvania Immigration Resource Center. Helping those most in need is at the heart of the Foundation's mission and inspired the creation of the York County Bar Foundation Legal Aid Endowment Fund.
As you are aware, the York County Bar Foundation is doing great things to help those in need of legal services by grants to such organizations such as MidPenn Legal Services and the Pennsylvania Immigration Resource Center. The Bar Foundation is a leader in funding critically needed legal services. The demand is huge. We are asking that you partner with us by making a financial contribution to the Bar Foundation's Legal Aid Endowment Fund. There are many ways to give. Lifetime gifts can be made in the form of cash, securities, life insurance, or other assets. Future gifts can also be made through a bequest in your will or a tax advantage plan gift, such as a charitable gift annuity or charitable remainder trust, can be completed through our alliance with the York County Community Foundation. Gifts in any amount are appreciated as we work to build the fund. We also offer the opportunity to create a name fund at a certain gift level. The name fund may be in your name, or it could be in honor of a family member or an associate.
The economy and politics have caused Congress to cut back funding for legal aid for the poor in a significant fashion. It is only through the involvement of the York County Bar Foundation and Association in making significant grant money to many of the legal aid providers in York County that people who are in need but are under the poverty level continue to be able to receive legal services. However, it's a partnership that needs more partners. We would like you to please consider joining with us in providing the funding necessary to give legal aid to all of those in York County who should have access to the justice system but are now denied because of simple lack of funding.